Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. On today's episode we're gonna finish this Jagdpanther. So up ahead there is some painting, weathering and making simple or maybe not that simple diorama. Here you can see the Jagdpanther with base coat of Dunkelgelb and some 3-color variation of the camo. I've chipped the paint the way that first I use the brighter shades of the green and the brown on the camo colors, just like the paint wasn't falling entirely but only for the tiny scratches. Then I use the Dunkelgelb to again to chip the paint, but this time deeper, so this will replicate the areas where the paint fall off, the green and the brown paint fall off entirely. And then finally chipping on the Dunkelgelb, so there will be raw steel or red oxide primer underneath it. Then I will apply some winter wash camo and then chip it again using the hairspray chipping technique. Before applying winter wash we need to do some decals, so this is Mark Fit Strong from Tamiya. This is my preferred decal solution. Of course on the market there is plenty of other available, but I find the Mark Fit Strong very reliable and it never failed me, especially when it comes to applying decals on the Zimmerit, when you need to, the decal to fill the gaps between the Zimmerit squares. You can also notice the interior part of the hatch is painted with the Elfenbein or cream-wise color. So let's speed up the decal process. Okay, so here's the finished decal and the general look of the model before applying winter wash. You can notice the red oxide primer on the places where the Zimmerit fall off entirely, and this cream beige color of the Zimmerit, because the Zimmerit was very thick, so you need to add some layers. Here is satin varnish from AK. I use it to secure the whole painting process. This AK worn effect and scratch effects will be used because I ran out of heavy chipping. Here's the reference photo of the Jagdpanther with winter white wash and Zimmerit on it. I believe this vehicle number is 101. So this is the winter white wash on, and I've tried to apply the layers the way that the thick one will be on the lower parts and the upper parts will be much thinner. We're gonna speed up this process a bit, so you just need clean brush, some tap water and some force to remove the white wash. You can notice that I've started with the decals and then gently remove the paint from the upper sections. The thin layer on the upper section was very easily to remove, so I need to be careful just not to remove much paint. I wanted to left some visible layers of the white even on the very upper part, and the lower part with the thick layer will be practically not touched. The flat surfaces, which normally receive the heaviest weathering, this time also will have the winter wash practically entirely removed. So here's the whitewash before and after removing the white paint, and I must say it turns out, surprisingly good. Okay, enough with the painting, now some enamel techniques. First of all, pin wash. So applying pin wash to enhance the details and all the things that are sticking up from the surface, and all the all the details like screws, handles, etc. You just need to be very careful when applying pin wash around the Timerit squares. Basically the Timerit and the wash won't come very good. Of course lately I'm gonna add some washes to the Timerit, but in a very controlled manner. After the pin wash I've decided to add some texture to the lower part, so I'm gonna use this acrylic mat from Vallejo. The foil under the cap is to prevent the mat from drying, because even if properly closed, those products often dry when not used often. So you can see that you just saw the Almomic concrete with the same foil. The purpose of this acrylic mat is to add the texture and to become the very first layer of the weathering of running gear. Now the pin wash and acrylic mat are completely dry and fixed. You can see the mat isn't looking very impressive, but it's as I said, it's the very first step of the weathering. So you can see I've attached the jackhammer and the exhaust pipes. As always, on the left side only the center pipe will receive some rust cover, and the exterior ones will remain in the base coat camo, because those were intakes pipe for the engine and won't receive any heat from the engine exhaust. Now it's time to weather some wheels. As you can see, I only painted the wheels with the Dunkelgelb color. Won't use green on brown from the camo. Apply some whitewash on the exterior wheels. Interior wheels will be in the main camo color, so Dunkelgelb, with exception of the outer rim, which will be steel, because this is the point on which the wheel get attached to the guide horns on the tracks, so the paint is often completely removed out from there, and since the wheels are in constant move, there is not much rust or weathering on the steel there, just the pure polished steel. With our wheels all painted, we can then move to the next step, which will be heavy weathering of the lower part. So you can see I'm using the variety of products like wet mud, moist ground, thick soil, some dirt and dust from my garden. All the enamel products will create the mud effect on the lower hull, and some on the other. over parts of the front and back plate, and on some parts of the side plates under the fenders. This old shaving brush will be the source of the grass for this mud weathering, so I'm removing the hair from it, and this will replicate the grass which gets stuck in the mud and stick to the vehicle. I'm gonna apply it to the various parts and random places to enhance the detail level of the weathering. The same weathering technique will be used on the wheels, so I'm gonna again speed up the process. You can see that the grass, the mud, the different shades of the mud will be applied on the vehicle and on the wheels. Here you can see the complete set of wheels completely weathered, so the outer wheels with the heavy mud, the inner wheels with less mud on it, and here is the vehicle with the wet mud applied on it. As you can see, there is a very contrast and not smooth transition between the colors and the edges of the mud, so I'm gonna use further weathering techniques to blend the mud and to receive the smooth transition between the clear part and the muddy one. Now we are switching to more brighter earth tones, dry earth tones, to replicate the outer layer of the mud which is already dried up. Now it's time to apply some rust and weathering to the exhaust pipes. I found out that the crucial for the successful and convenient looking rust effects on those exhaust pipes is having them painted with light undercoat, so light gray or even dunkelgelb like on the left side. Then you can apply some washes. I'm using heavy streaking rust and light rust wash, and I'm applying this mixture layer after layer, thinned with the enamel thinner, then remove it and apply it again until I'm satisfied with the effect. Apart from exhaust pipes, additional areas on this vehicle on which the rust can be seen are those holders for the spare track links, so I'm applying the very thin layer of the rust wash. The last step is to add some black marks from the exhaust fumes. I simply use black pigment and apply it on the very tip of the exhaust pipes, and in this case on the bottom part of the tube for the cleaning rod. Now it's time to weather the flat surfaces of the engine deck and the upper part, so I'm gonna use different shades of the oil brushes. Of course it can be achieved with the oil paint or some enamel products, but I have the quite collection of the oil brushes and I want to use them simply before they dry up. So we are trying here to replicate the mud and the dirt and dust which are bring with the crew boots, for example. And the key factor here is to apply the washes and the oil paints, and then using enamel thinner, pushing them to the corners and the parts of the hatches and the ventilators which are sticking up. So basically it's like cleaning the floor, you're using the brush soaked with the enamel wash and simply push the dirt to simulate the accumulation of it on the corners and parts which are lifted up. Okay, so here is the finished dirt washing of the engine deck and the upper and the roof of the tank. Okay, let's call it the roof. So now we're gonna focus on the vertical surfaces, and we're gonna apply some rain marks, some wet effects, basically the same way the old brushes were applied on the flat surfaces, but this time we're gonna remove them vertically. So we are applying on the very top of the side armor plate, and then gently with the brush soaked in the enamel thinner we are making vertically moves to replicate the rain marks. Well, those aren't the rain marks, but the oil paint is distributed the same way that the rain marks are. Okay, so here you can see the complete weathering of the upper part of this vehicle. You can also see that I've managed to apply some wash inside the Timarit, but not entirely, but in a very controlled manner on those places where the especially whitewash was very strong on the vehicle. Also, I applied some engine oil streaks on the fuel tank cover. Hopefully you're gonna see the desaturation of the whitewash color and the paint job underneath, and the dust and dirt on the rooftop. So here is the weathered wheel, and it made, you know, the perfect transition between the upper hull whitewash and the muddy lower hull. Here is the photo of the vehicle with the finished weathering on it. Hopefully you are seeing the things I was talking about for the last minutes. And here is the thing. As you can see, the gun barrel is already attached, but moreover the tracks are already attached, and that's because I've lost the recordings of the track weathering and track assembly. So here you can see I'm applying and attaching some tools for the vehicle. I found the really nice antenna, and you know, basically hammers, axes, shackles. You can see the very important part on each of the German Panzer builds, so the basket and some towing hooks, towing ropes, etc. And I'm simply using CA glue to attach them to the vehicle. I'm especially proud of the jackhammer block because I used some piece of balsa wood and pushed the jack on it, so it would leave the marks that indicates that the jack block was already used and have some jackhammer marks on it. So here's the finished Jagdpanther. Well, almost finished, because you can notice that the fire extinguisher is missing. That's because at that point I was waiting for the fire extinguisher decal, the Tetra one, with the instruction for manual for the fire extinguisher. So the red basket will be placed on the different place, the lower towing hook on the back plate, but the rest is already finished, and I think it went okay. The figure is from the previous build, because as I mentioned before, this vehicle will be placed on some kind of diorama. And now, while I'm recording it, the diorama is already complete. That's because I want to participate in online competition, and the deadline was so close that I didn't manage to record any of the diorama build videos, and just simply gonna show you right now the finished diorama and talk a little about it. So here's that diorama. As you can see, Jagdpanther, M8 Greyhound and some Jeep which run to the telegraph pole, and I've added some figures and decided to make muddy, you know, the last day of the winter or the early winter diorama. Basically it's the Lusen inspiration for the Battle of the Ardennes and the Poteau ambush, the very famous one on which the Germans destroyed some column of the light armored reconnaissance vehicles of the US Army. You can see I used some resin figures and some dragon ones from the Commander set. I used some steel water for the AK, and basically the Jeep and the Greyhound were built in the one day. So this is the finished diorama, and I hope you like it. As always, at the end here are some pictures of the complete diorama. Hopefully you like it, hopefully you managed to end of this video, so don't be afraid to leave the subscription, to comment and to like the video, and we're gonna see each other on the upcoming video of the another Jagdpanther build. So cheers!